Dear reader listener, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is week 29. Also, if you're beginning this audio version of Todd on week 29, I would advise going back to listen to weeks 1 through 28 and the foreword and prologue. All of these are in order in the playlist and can be accessed on the YouTube channel Tot at Tot 2022. This character's journal makes much more sense if you start at her beginning. Thank you for reading, listening. Tot, Week 29, Part 1. Sunday, March 12th, 2017, 6 a.m. This really does feel like we're on vacation. Yes, it is a Holiday Inn, and a Chevy Impala does not scream luxury, but spending this much time with Paolo and Mimi with no real other responsibilities does feel luxurious. Unfortunately, I cannot sleep past 5 a.m. though. So I'm enjoying an herbal tea in the breakfast area and typing up my journal. Maybe I'll call Grandma. Monday, March 13th, 2017, 6:10 a.m. I don't have much to say when I don't have school drama. I have to be at the workshop by 9 a.m. It's a 10-minute walk from the hotel. I'm leaving the car with Paulo and Mimi so they can go to the zoo. Yes, I am jealous, but my gratitude for having this time with them trumps my jealousy. Monday, March 13th, 2017, 4 p.m. Mimi and Paulo are finishing up at the zoo, which is good because I need to process this day. It was interesting. The workshop instructors had come in and woven an intricate web of understanding where I and 40-ish other people could clearly see the cycle of racism and how it has molded and been guiding the power for all of the systems that our society relies on. Then, as we were closing day one of the 2-day workshop and reveling in this, feeling of understanding, the presenting team leaves us with the following definition of racism: prejudice plus power equals racism. Beautiful. Sums it up concisely, and I am with them 100%. How can I stop this unjust cycle? Then they inform us that if we agree with that definition, we must accept that no person of color can ever be racist because they simply cannot have the power to perpetuate the agendas that racism allows to exist. Amen. Again, beautifully said and articulated. And finally, we must also accept that only whites can be racist, and, in fact, by being white and receiving all the fruits of an inequitable system, we must agree that we, who are white, are all racists. Beautiful. Wait, what? Part of this beautiful weaving process was that I had agreed, and my white, politically correct, people pleasing, wanting to give the right answer ass heartily agreed to stay uncomfortable when they made me uncomfortable. I was officially uncomfortable. Me? A racist? Really? The main presenter, a very serious middle aged black man, sent us off with a request that we think about this and don't go home and call your family members racists. Too late. I had done that well before this workshop because, frankly, I had some very racist family members that fit my definition of racist before this workshop. Old definition: people who think they're better than people of other races and act like assholes accordingly. New definition: anyone white, including me. So I decided to sit with this and think back to an incident with a student from my 7th hour named Dakota. He said I was racist, and I never really knew what I may have done to make him feel like he was being racially targeted. At the time, he had been in trouble for a bunch of other things, and I assumed he was trying to distract everyone from all of that by calling me a racist. Of course, he was white, but he told us he identified as Indian. This made me ponder. Is it possible to be transracial? I mean, if you could be a male but identify as a woman, why couldn't you be, say, Latino and identify as black? And if that was the case, couldn't a white person identify as another race? And if they could, how could they be racist? Ooh, I was onto something here. This was good stuff. I was thinking outside the box, analyzing this from all perspectives. At some point during my back patting for my brilliant analysis of the workshop, it came to me that the presenters had really harped on the fact that all of our systems are set up to benefit whites and to hold everyone else back. So maybe I wasn't really onto something, because if you just identified as another race but were still white, that's what the world sees. And well, by the nature of that, you would still benefit and, damn it, still be racist. As I stew in this dichotomy between being a racist and fighting the very idea I could ever wear that label, I realized that maybe this struggle is exactly what they were talking about. I can't see my part in the system because the system is set up to keep me blind to it, because I benefit from it. Not only do I have no motivation to change, there's also a feeling of not wanting to change. I hope this is like exercise. You kind of hate it at first, and then you gradually get used to it. And while it's always hard, it becomes a part of your routine. Tuesday, March 14th, 2017, 3 p.m. They let us go an hour early. Thank God. Paulo and Mimi weren't expecting me this early, so once again, I have time to unpack, vent, rant about this workshop that was forced upon me. This morning, I was up early and ready to go. My first stop was the lobby for my herbal tea. My second stop was the place where I embraced day 2 of being a racist. That's right. After a night of wrestling with this idea, I have decided that this is probably like alcoholism, and they're going to give us some sort of 12-step program wherein I can have concrete tasks to deal with my racism. Step 1, admit you're a racist. Step 2, apologize to those you have harmed by being white. Well, this one will obviously be a lifelong task. Step 3, find a greater power to help you with this task. Well, this is going to be either the education system or the team that is leading us, which I don't really find any of the 4 people on that team to be very approachable. I hope they'll advise us to rely on the school district. Otherwise, I'm sunk, because those 4 people are pretty intimidating. Steps 4 through 12, to be revealed during workshop, hopefully. But I feel good. I'm ready. As I stride through the door in my Converse sneakers, jeans, and hoodie, I came prepared in doing clothes. I'm clothed to sit on the floor, wrestle, build a bonfire, go on a hike, etc. Just bring it. I see not many people have arrived yet. I should branch out today and sit in another seat. There are no assigned seats, and this would show my willingness to think outside the box, my willingness to be an agent of change and flexibility. However, my seating area from the day before has a lovely shelf where I can store my bag. I can also set my tea up there, which is really important if we do start wrestling or something. Okay, I'll choose 2 seats down from where I sat yesterday, where I can still reach the shelf. The day before, I had struck up a conversation with a Black woman sitting 2 seats away from me, and I felt that she and I had made a connection. Today, she comes in and scans the room, and as her eyes pass over me, I give her my best, "Here I am, your friend, come sit with me," smile. Her eyes make no recognition of this, and she goes and sits in another location of the room. There are multiple empty seats on either side of me, but hey, that's okay. I don't care. I'm here to be a better teacher, not make friends. It's all good. On my way to check out the hot tea selection, I beam at everyone that is there that I see. And for the most part, they beam back at me. Just a bunch of white racists trying to be better people. The presenters begin to straggle in and head to their designated seats. The Black man doesn't have a Black man name. And the fact that I had thought that thought makes me think I'm racist. But if I say Jose, one thinks Latino. So is it racist? Also, people always ask where Paulo's from when I say his name. So it's hard for me to remember it, and I'm too afraid to speak to him. So it's not like I will ever need to use it. I think his name's Devin. The First Nations lady, by the way, that was a new term for me. Thank God she said it before I had a chance to call her Native American, also has a name that does not fit. It's Jennifer. Then there is a white girl who could be any one of countless unhappy liberal 20-something social justice workers. She rarely speaks and wears her racism as a necessary burden. No idea what her name is, because by her very nature and position within the cohort, she blends and disappears. And the final member is a Latina woman who radiates frenetic energy. She vibrates as she sits in her seat, intensely focused on each piece of the presentation. Her eyes bore into what they are taking in, and when she speaks, it becomes unclear whether she will break into hysterical sobbing or rageful screaming. At no point has she done either, but her essence shouts that it's lurking below the surface of all she's doing. We start the conversation for the day off by unpacking what was handed to us the day before. Out of around 40 people, 30 ish of us are white, and we're all given the opportunity to say whether we agree or disagree with their definition of racism. We sit in a large circle, and I know I'll be one of the last people to share because of my position in said circle. The first 10 people say something to the effect of, I agree with the definition, but we need more language around the concept, in addition to race, racism, and racist. After all, racist means hater by societal standards, and I am not a hater. Therefore, I need more vocabulary to house these concepts. Oh, educators, you gotta love us, or not. We can nitpick any topic to death. How can you agree and then basically say you don't and choose so many words to frame that concept that will ultimately absolve you from any responsibility for your opinion? And why are people so afraid to say their opinion? That's what Devin asked for. As each of these people says a version of the same thing, Devin nods and responds with, I hear what you're saying. I decide I will say exactly what went through my mind yesterday. The presenters had said they wanted us to have genuine, gut level conversations about this, not polite, what I should say conversations. We weren't halfway around the circle to me, and my heart was already pounding just thinking about being real. We come to our first person of color, a Black woman, not my friend from yesterday who snubbed me. Although, mental note, many of the people of color are sitting closer to each other today than yesterday. She shares that she went home and grappled. Son of a bitch. That was my word that I was going to use. She grappled with where she fit into the system and how to socialize her child who is biracial. She agreed with the definition, but became aware that because her child is biracial, she wants her to have a piece of white privilege. Devin adds sister to his response this time and leans in as she speaks. Oh, it's getting real now. Three people down from sister is a woman who is Native American. I make a mental note here to later research, is there a difference between First Nations and Native American? She proclaims that she doesn't believe the definition is accurate because she was raised to be ashamed of her heritage, and her father was racist against his own people. She begins to cry. The people around her scramble for tissues. This definition is bullshit, she mutters. Obviously, other races can be racist. Devin says, my sister, I am sorry you had to go through that. 4 people away from the Native American lady is a Black woman who speaks directly to her and explains that despite her father being bigoted against his own race, the Native American people collectively don't have enough power to change systems or benefit from them on their own. Bigotry and racism are two different things. The whole group has a collective aha moment and nod in understanding at each other as Devin says repeatedly, yes, thank you, sister. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, sister. We continue around the circle, and people still want to linger on exact terminology and syntax of words and context. Devin reminds the person before me that this is not personal. It is not about the individual. It's about the collective and changing things so that one group is not always benefiting at the expense of the others. And then it's my turn. Well, first, I'd like to say that I respectfully disagree with the idea that these definitions are not about the individual. I begin hesitantly. Everyone has answered this directly to Devin, but I make a point to look around the room at everyone, although I can see Devin nodding in agreement out of the corner of my eye. Last night, and I'm going to use her word, I glance at the Black woman who had said it, I grappled all night with these concepts. Intellectually, I was on board. I could see where you were going, the history, and how that led to these definitions. But there's something very deep within me that wants to reject this and argue it. I was actually having these arguments with myself in my head. I don't want all of you to think I was having some kind of psychotic moment here, chuckles around the room. But I did what you said, and I wore the label of racist, and repeatedly my own psyche offered me excuses and rationale to why I wasn't. Then I would remind myself of all we had talked about and get back to that place of accepting the label. And once again, this internal voice would argue how I couldn't be. Heads nodding, people smiling, and looking like they are connecting with what I'm saying. So, if I have that much trouble on an internal gut level accepting this, it's going to be very difficult to recognize what I need to change in my classroom. And that is the piece for me that's individual. As an individual, I do have to embrace this internally in order to make my classroom an equitable environment. Silence. That's right. This sister's done some analyzing. Devin responds, "We'll get to internalized racial oppression later." And via eye contact, lets the guy next to me know that it is his turn. Um, am I not Devin's sister? What the hell? Then, as we have made our way around the whole circle, the presenters share last. And when it is the white girl's turn, she unleashes. You people are missing the larger message here. You want to intellectualize things so you don't have to feel them. You want to change the language to fit your understanding. This is the essence of what we are saying. When white people are forced to grapple, and she said it really snottily, they want to make that uncomfortable space comfortable. So they start trying to remove themselves from the problem by grappling or separating out what is intellectual or internal and external. It's not about you. It is definitely not about the individual. She wasn't quite yelling, but she enunciated each syllable in individual very loudly. Either you accept the definition or you don't. Now, I don't want to label people here, but can you say passive aggressive? And the people that had sat next to me are now wishing they had sat elsewhere. No one wants to make eye contact with me. My cheeks are burning as she flops back in her chair, glaring from her pale face with eyes that are proclaiming she's embarrassed to be affiliated with a race that contains so many stupid people. But I'm confused. I thought we were supposed to say what we thought and have a real conversation. So it's only wrong if I'm the one saying the wrong thing? And why is my process wrong? What I'm getting from this is pretty much what I think is wrong. And this is because I'm white. So unless I'm repeating what has already been said by one of the presenters, I should stay quiet. Okay. I'm not sure where that goes on the 12-step program, but lesson learned. Mental note: if you say the wrong thing, pasty white girl is the team's secret weapon for brutal public humiliation as your consequence. We now move into an activity where we talk about internalized racism, which I was kind enough to give an example of. In short, we all live in this social construct where there is a racial hierarchy that affects all of us, but we grow up with it, and it's super hard for us to see and do anything about. Once again, we go around the room and share. Most of the comments are, well, golly gee, I never saw this before. Thank you for your hard work to show me how erroneous my thought process has been. In the middle of this, we take a break, and I still haven't shared. During the break, I get into a conversation with the Black woman with the biracial child, and I share that Mimi is also biracial. We discuss the idea that there is a responsibility to ensure that children receive exposure to both sets of cultural identity. This had never occurred to me before and made me question how much of Paulo's culture was Mimi really exposed to. Not much if I really thought about it. Now, shortly before our break, another Black woman had stated she teaches her kids to be white because they live in an affluent community, and that's the culture of the community, and she wants her kids to have those privileges. And that really made me ponder how Mimi was being taught to be white, but mainly because that's all I know, and we live in my home country. Once again, the circle comes together, and I wait for my turn to share. I've decided I will share my newfound epiphany that I have a responsibility to ensure that my daughter needs to know her roots on both sides of the cultural fence. This seems like a safe takeaway to share after learning about internalized racism. I begin with a reference to the conversation I had with the woman on break, and she beams encouragingly at me as I explain that I now understand the importance of the role I play in ensuring my daughter has equal exposure to her cultures of origin. I'm even a hair self deprecating as I chastise myself for my ignorance. I'm a white racist idiot. Please move on to the next person. I didn't say that, but it was something along those lines. Then I noticed Devin is now leaned in toward me and nodding his head. And I got just a tad excited because I thought maybe he would call me sister. But he was just nodding, and that was good enough for me. I sat back and turned to the guy next to me. Then I heard, "Let me ask you something." My gaze went back to Devin. He was going to say something to me. I assumed it would probably be about how ahead of all these other white people I might be, and that maybe there's some truth in my message. Oh, please let him call me sister. But no, he asked me, "What ethnicity are you?" Beg pardon? Excuse me? What? Yep, that's the only response I could muster. What? What ethnicity are you? He paused for effect between each word of the question. American was all I could come up with. Because I know we'd talked about ethnicity, and I know it's more than your country, but sometimes your country plays a big role in your ethnicity, but now I don't remember why or how. I've never thought about this, and it is clear I don't know what flipping ethnicity I am, and at that point I was pretty sure he was not going to call me sister by how he restated the question and is now staring me down as I verbally fumble around. I again turned to the next guy. I so hoped we would move on because I could feel prickles and sweat in my armpits and at my hairline. No. Devin's voice was hauntingly amplified by the silence in the room. That's the country you live in. What's your ethnicity? Where are you from? Uh, I grew up in Missouri. What was he looking for here? I have no ethnicity. I'm white, a victim of a European melting pot, from roots that I have no desire to go back and trace for fear I will find serial killers or cousins who were married. When I look at my living ancestors, I thank God I escaped many of the genetic hurdles that obviously could have been part of my makeup, but I was not about to share any of that. He was agitated then, slapping the back of one hand into the palm of the other, his voice raising to emphasize his frustration with me. That's the state you live in. Where are your people from? How did they get here? Your people weren't in Missouri originally. Where did they come from? I I don't I don't know. It's more than a whisper, but not much. And I don't know because my people are not really my people. Paulo and Mimi are my people. I am my grandmother's, father's, brother's, and sister's people. That's the extent of it. My roots are very shallow. I have two, Paulo and Mimi, and I cling to them fiercely. And embarrassingly, I feel like I might cry. I won't cry in front of these people. It's not their collective fault they're stabbing me in a deep hidden place where I allow no one. They don't know that my mother's a bipolar meth addict who's been certifiably insane for almost 20 years. My people are not my people. I reject that reality. That rejection is what has made me educate myself, survive in a middle class world where I only had poverty class training. I chose my people, and I brought them with me to a safe space. Where am I from, Devin? I guess I am from a space that I had to struggle to remove myself from, and I live in terror that it may find me again. A space where unsafe people try to hurt you. Oh, this has gotten out of hand and is no longer about racism, institutional or otherwise. Devin went on to explain to me and the others in the room that our ethnicity is largely attached to our cultural heritage. And white people often don't know their cultural heritage because, as the dominant culture, we live our culture, and it is the culture forced upon everyone else. Kind of like when you assume everyone else is doing fine financially because you are, and you don't know or see the suffering others go through when they don't have money. In retrospect, I don't think he meant to make me feel small. I think he was emphasizing the point that white people don't ever have to think about their ethnicity, which is why we were all here. I got it. So I sat there for the next hour, not really absorbing much except the white hot shame dump I had received, and I was very happy to collect my things and dodge out before anyone could say a word to me. On the way back to the hotel, I let my tears go despite people looking at me as I walked by. I do try not to cry. I think it's weak, or that others will think I'm weak if I do it. Even when I go back and read or listen to my journal, I cringe when I read or hear myself say I was going to cry, or worse, when I hear my own voice crack in the audio version. But today, I let myself cry, and I let other people see it, and I didn't care. Clearly, this questioning my history, along with my inability to really give these presenters whatever it was that they want so that they will then approve of me, is still upsetting. And obviously, it brings up some childhood trauma. And I'm not even sure why. Is my delusion that I'm not part of all the racial inequities so strong that I have to turn it all into me stuff every chance I get? Also, at some point, I need to stop referring to people by their look or ethnicity. And in this journaling, I've shown myself how far my biases go and how deep. Devin articulated how we see race first really well, and he's right. Thankfully, I did not give him yet another opportunity to showcase exactly why this workshop was so necessary. Yes, I'm taking it all super personally. No, it's not meant to be, at least not on this level. I don't know how to not feel this defensiveness. I don't know how to stop my brain from making this about me. But on some very dark, deep level, I know this is not about me. And again, I feel shame and I feel fear. And I feel like I've been part of the matrix living in this world that these four people have now exposed to be false and destructive. And I don't know what to do other than focus on all the outside details of everyone and everything going on, or to make it about me, to seek the flaws and distract myself from this gnawing compulsion to take action. Because I don't even know where to start, but I do feel the urgency. I owe Pauline a huge apology. She should be here, not me. She would know what to do. Mini break officially over.